All right, so welcome to the channel. This is MMA and video games. This is our first video that we've done for this channel. We're going to be talking about UFC 313 tonight. Some controversial decisions that took place. We're not exactly thrilled about the results, but if you stick around to the end of the video, we're going to be discussing Monster Wilds. My son Julian is going to be doing a short review, and we'll be discussing other video games that I'm playing at the moment, which is Days Gone, which I feel like people should stick around and hear out because it's a very underrated video game. But to start, we're going to get off to UFC 313 and start discussing what our first fight of the event was, which was King Green. Well, I don't know why it says King Green.
Because he changed his name from Bobby Green to King Green.
When did he do that?
A couple fights ago.
Get out of here. I did not know that. How did I not fucking hear about that? Yeah. So Bobby Green and Mauricio Rufy. I mean, not much to say.
Just a brutal heel kick, 360 heel kick.
I mean, let's talk about the fact that I like Bobby Green.
I don't.
You don't. I like Bobby Green. I mean, it's hard not to like Bobby Green. I don't know why you don't like Bobby Green. I don't know how anybody could dislike Bobby Green. He's a strange individual, like most MMA fighters tend to be. But I like Bobby Green, and I definitely did not want to see him go out in a negative, nasty way. I thought initially, after seeing the wheel kick, I thought, oh, he kind of caught him with that with the toes, like it was like a slap across the face, almost like power slap. I thought, oh, this is a good way for him to go out. And then we watched the replay, and
it was like a baseball bat.
Yeah, and that explains why Bobby went out like a sack of potatoes. It was sad to see because, I mean, let's be honest. He's got one or two fights left in him.
Third knockout in a row?
One or two fights left in
that.
But I mean, what an incredible highlight reel knockout by Mauricio Rufy. And that's the worst thing about getting caught in a wheel kick like that is you're going to be a highlight for the ages. Like literally, poor old Bobby Green is going to be remembered for the rest of his career off of that wheel kick more than his career. And that's a shitty thing to see somebody who had, the charisma and the head movement and the hands. I mean, he had some flair, but he definitely got finished pretty nasty in that one. I mean, there's not really much to say in that one. He got KO'd and late in the first round. So, but I mean, again, Mauricio Rufy, do we think that he has the potential to be a champion?
I think he definitely has a chance for a good run. I don't know if he will become the champion. I don't think so. I haven't seen too much of him necessarily to say if he has he's champion material. But
we watched his
he's a striker.
His main fights that he's had in the UFC today. We watched through them, and he didn't really give me the feeling like he destroys people.
Yeah, I'd say he seems like a bit of a sniper. Is
I mean, he reminds me a little bit of Ian Gary in his ability to kind of strike and stand and flow and pop in and out. But at the end of the day, I mean, do I see anything outside of a orthodox Conor McGregor? That's pretty much all I see is and if you were to throw Conor McGregor in the mix with all the top, contenders today, he doesn't stand up. He doesn't stand up anymore. The game has changed. So we'll have to wait and see if Mauricio can live up to the hype. I mean, that head kick, that definitely
was perfect.
It definitely makes you feel like this guy has the potential to live up to the hype. But that's really the only thing that I've seen that made me feel like, okay, we've got a superstar in the making. We'll have to. There's still a lot to be proven, if you ask me.
I agree.
But let's move on to the next fight: Amanda Lemos and Jasmine Lucindo.
It's actually Yasmin.
Is it Yasmin?
Yeah.
Let's see. How did that one go? I can't remember. It was. Oh yeah, that's right. Lemos just kind of took top position and kind of held on to the top position for the first round. Second round, it seemed as though they were kind of going and trading back and forth. Jasmine started to close the distance and got Lemos up against the cage and tried to take her down, but eventually Lemos reversed the position and got top position in the second round. And Lucindo got on top in the third. But Lemos reversed the position with that toe.
Yeah, use your toes in the cage and gain leverage.
That looked blatant.
It was a full
somersault. Blatant. Yeah. And even Joe Rogan, he was commenting throughout the fight. She is really digging her toes into that cage. And the ref just was not paying attention. And you've got to give it to Lemos for noticing and recognizing that the ref was letting her get away with it. So she kept doing it. And she flipped the position in that round. I mean, you never know where that could have led. That could have led potentially to Lucindo dropping some bombs, dropping some elbows.
Yeah, it looked like she could have finished the fight there. Even.
Well, let's be honest. Yeah. Probably not.
Fair enough.
But it does leave the question. Yeah. Could she have finished it from that position before she blatantly flipped the position with that with the toes in the cage? So, but at the same time, Lemos won the first 2 rounds. Mm-hmm. So there wasn't a lot of debate.
It was unanimous.
Yeah, there wasn't a lot of debate in respect to did the toes really decide the fight. I mean, granted, I didn't even hear the commentators or the judges or anybody talking about that. Perhaps there will be nobody talking about that, but I saw it. You saw it. We watched the replay back. We rewound the fight and was like, "Holy crap, that was blatant." So, it is what it is. Lemos won, and she's moved on to the next round, or to the, she got the win. So let's take a look at this Jalin Turner, Ignacio Bahamondes fight.
Looking at the fight before it started, we thought they were both lightweights, haven't faced another in the same height and range. It would seem like a competitive matchup.
Yeah.
And
but they were both used to exploiting the same holes in their opponents, right?
Yeah.
Being that height and range. You get used to exploiting the same holes, and now all of a sudden you got these two fighters who can't exploit the same holes that they're typically used to exploiting. And look where it went. It went to the ground, and it was not early, but
yeah, it was pretty early. It was, halfway through the round. It was about
2:30. It was exactly halfway.
Yeah,
but that was I'll be honest. I thought perhaps Jalin was thinking there was an armbar that was being transitioned in that moment, because he was shifting his weight, he was turning, and it looked like in that moment, even I called it out, something's happening. He's going for an armbar, but he kept his right leg draped over the back of his neck and somehow clamped things together. And I didn't actually even notice while watching the fight that Jalen's right arm was actually still stuck in the arm, leaving the triangle open. And so when it clamped on, I mean, that's it. That's it. And you got to wonder, I mean, when you see fighters at the end of, like Jalen's going through a lot, he's lost and he's battled with confidence and wanting to come back and feeling like he's capable of coming back. And he felt like he was coming back and listening to the lead up to the fights. He was confident that this was going to be it. And then he starts taking his gloves off and throwing them in the middle of the ring, wanting to retire and pull, little tantrum, little things that, a lot of these fighters do. And I get it. It's an emotional time. You beat yourself up and you want to, you don't think that you're going to be able to come back from it. But it makes you wonder, did he give up in that fight? Could he have gotten out of that? Did he want out? Because that happened really quick and out of nowhere. And the tap seemed like he wasn't struggling. You know what I mean? Like he accepted that pretty quick. Like, okay, yep, he got me. And you got to wonder if you're really wanting to fight for title contention. I mean, the moment that locks up, I mean, you're scrambling, you're pulling, you're fucking trying your best to pick that guy up and rampage slam him onto the ground. But he really just kind of felt like he just kind of, I'm okay with this. And then I'm done. It almost felt like mid-fight he decided I'm not as good as I think I am.
Yep. Yeah, it happens a lot.
Yeah. And which is sad, because he is great and he does have all the potential in the world. And he went up against a guy who, again, it's like it's a tough matchup when you're dealing with somebody who you no longer can exploit holes you're used to exploiting. But still, nonetheless, Ignacio Bahamondes pulled off a really cool, surprising submission. definitely looking forward to seeing what more comes from him. I hope Jalen Turner doesn't actually retire. He's too fucking young. Pardon my French. He's too young to retire.
Oh no, he'll be back.
He's got too much potential. I mean, what are you gonna do? You're gonna go dig ditches? Come on, use those skills. Use those skills, Jalen. You can still, make some money. Pile that. Stack them chips. Let's move on to the next fight. Let's see. We got the co-main. Now,
I predicted Justin Gaethje.
Well, let's
back hungry.
Let's talk about the lead up to this fight, because there were so many things being said. Could Gaethje's chin hold up? Mm-hmm. Does Gaethje's age, is that a factor? Is he on the decline? Is it a Volkanovski repeat? You know what I mean? Like, is he? And I honestly thought that based on the age and based on how Rafael fights, and in the last fight, I think Rafael didn't get as much credit as he deserved, because it was the first 2 rounds were close.
I still say this fight was, for the most part, close, despite it being...
100%. It was very close. That being said, it was still tilted in Gaethje's favor. I honestly thought, in my opinion...
Had the knockdown.
Who had the knockdown?
Justin Gaethje.
Right. Yeah. No, absolutely. It's that uppercut, man. It's that uppercut that he gets.
That dirty boxing uppercut.
I don't know how Fiziev kept allowing it to land, but
because he's got that cushion on his face.
Maybe they grow the beards. Maybe it does add some type of resistance. I don't know. But leading up to this fight, I honestly thought Justin never being a champion made me question whether or not I was being fair, because the fact that he has never been a champion means that he's still got that hunger to feel the top, to experience the top. He had the interim belt, and I thought maybe you see his house, like the guy lives in a fucking beautiful mansion, and I wouldn't call it a mansion, but it's a beautiful house. He's doing well for himself. So there was that part of me that wondered, is this sort of like, has he accepted this is the pinnacle of his success, and that's it. And I think that every fighter gets to that point where they just sort of accept, this is the best I'm ever going to get. Like Chandler knows he's never getting to the top. See you at the top. You're never getting there. He's never getting to the top.
Yeah.
And maybe he's a bad example, because I swear he still thinks he's getting there. But and who knows? Maybe he puts Paddy to sleep. I doubt it. But
I doubt it. Yeah, I doubt that too.
But
I also just really like Paddy for the most part.
But like, if I'm trying to remember this fight here, the first round, tough to say, right?
Rafael took Justin down immediately and repeatedly. Big right hands for Gaethje. Close round. Fiziev started strong. Gaethje finished strong.
Yes, yeah. I remember. All I remember is heavy uppercuts, which is typical, because that's what you remember in most Gaethje fights, are heavy uppercuts, and he continued to land them, which makes you wonder about Fiziev's, hate to say it, fight IQ. Sure. If you can't make adjustments to start avoiding these shots, the top ain't for you. Dude, we ain't gonna see you at the top. We ain't gonna see you at the top. I love Fiziev though. He's so badass. The way he like shoots out of the way like the Matrix, to get out of the way of the head kicks. But that's the kickboxing. This is MMA. So sad to see Fiziev not, strive for that kind of. Because I've always been a fan, especially with his kickboxing. Like his kickboxing. Have you watched his kickboxing highlight reel?
No, I've seen it.
It's pretty exciting. It's pretty exciting. But Gaethje winning is also awesome. I mean, Gaethje remaining at the top. See, I have this theory and feeling that the sport has evolved so much that most of the guys that we know, Poirier, Gaethje, Charles, they're the gatekeepers now. Yep. for the featherweights or the middleweight. Excuse me. For the 55ers. These are the gatekeepers. And there's a part of me that feels like I just want to see the sport evolve. I want to see the new class, get to the top. And I thought maybe Fiziev was part of the new class, and to see Gaethje shut him down. It's like Poirier shutting down what's his name? The French guy. Benoit Saint-Denis. There we go. But yeah, Benoit Saint-Denis was the next up and comer, the next sort of superstar on the rise that everybody thought it was like unbeatable. Oh, he's a warrior. And fucking Poirier shut him down hard. So that was cool to watch. I mean, I'm not a Poirier fan, but to see the old guard holding their ground, standing their ground was refreshing and nice. But at the same time, you know, I'm ready. I guess I shouldn't say that. I'm ready to let the old guard move on, because it is. I mean, I'm an old guy. I know what it's, but I don't know. There's this part of me that likes to see certain styles of movement, styles of fighting. I'm a huge Ilya fan. I'm a Tom Aspinall fan.
Yep.
Those are the evolved fighters, and they're the ones that make me feel like the old guard are the old guard. I mean, Nate Diaz and those guys, those are the fucking old guard. Right?
Yeah.
But Gaethje and them, I feel like they're not that level, but they're the next, you know, they're on their way out. That being said, very excited to see what's next for Gaethje. He still seems to stay ranked number 3.
I was gonna say I don't think he'll get champ ever, but if he does, I think maybe he'll. Well, who is champ again right now?
Well, I was gonna say, what's next for the lightweight division, right? We got the 55. That's Islam Makhachev, right? So, and we got Ilya, who's challenging and wants to move up to challenge for the middleweight or the featherweight. Excuse me, the 155 belt. So, with that going on, where does that leave Gaethje? What does Gaethje have?
He has Islam.
He's not gonna fight Islam again. He got beat up. He got beat by Islam.
I know. Well, that's his champ. That's the champ.
Yeah, so Gaethje
he's got Arman or Charles Oliveira.
Gaethje's probably not getting another title fight unless Islam loses the belt. Mm-hmm. Let's be honest. But that's gonna be, you know, up for discussion in the future. But let's move on to the next fight, the main event.
Big stakes this fight. Big stakes.
Oh man, the stakes! I don't think people realize how big these stakes were.
And it ended up being the worst case scenario.
Yeah. Let's talk about the stakes. The stakes in this fight for the UFC were huge. Huge. Ankalaev winning this fight changed the course of a lot of people's lives when you think about it. You got Jones waiting in the wings to decide who he wants to fight. The world wants and knows he has to fight Tom Aspinall to become the GOAT, to become the greatest of all time. He has to fight Tom Aspinall. Now, Poatan has been the fight that he wants. Why? Because he knows he can take him down and do what he did to Cyril Gane. The whole world is aware of this. The MMA community, who has any intelligence, is aware of this. Now, Poatan losing to Ankalaev shuts down a lot of potential fights. Now, Jones ain't going to want to fight Poatan after losing to Ankalaev. Now, maybe he will. Maybe he'll see this as a scapegoat to get out of the Tom fight. I don't care. I want money fights, and Poatan's the money fight. And maybe he goes for that. Maybe he wants that and chooses that anyway. But I feel the most likely thing Jon Jones is going to do is he's going to take this opportunity to drag out and hold on to the belt for another 6 months to a year, so that 20 years from now, when we look back at the history of the heavyweight champions, he can say he held on to the heavyweight belt after his, you know, light heavyweight reign for this many years. Mm-hmm. Because he's sociopathic and he wants to like figure out some way to become, you know, the LeBron of the UFC.
MMA.
And these stakes tonight were so high because if Poatan won, then we get the Poatan-Jon Jones fight. We get it, 100%. Jon Jones, I want him. And that's the way it would have gone. And he would have relinquished the belt in order to do that. And we could have freed up the heavyweight belt so that Tom could finally get back to fighting and doing what we're all excited to watch Tom do, which is KO guys in the first round. And he can get back to that. But now that Ankalaev has won, Jones is going to hang on to that belt and pretend and go back and forth and decide, and I don't know what I want to do, and then finally just retire it after a year of holding on to it. It's just such a nightmare. The whole thing, like, I couldn't have been more disappointed. I honestly thought, when you look back at the fight,
first round, it seemed like it was Alex. He started off great with intimidation factor.
Oh man, he had him moving backwards. Yeah. Like that's the thing about Poatan. That is one scary man. When he's looking at you, the guy just feels like he becomes a spirit. During fight week, he becomes a spirit, and then when he stands there looking across from you, you feel like you're being stared down by the ancient spirits of his tribe, ready to pardon my French, ready to stomp your head into the ground. And so round one, it looked like Ankalaev was like, okay, I don't know what to think. Like, this guy has the touch of death. I can't, get too close. And when he survived that round one, it was like it shifted. Mm-hmm. It shifted. It went from, like I noted, it's like he's finding Poatan's timing. He's got his timing down. He's starting to hit him with some multiple heavy shots. He ended the round with that almost knockout shot. And that being said, it was like round one went to Poatan. Not decisively, but round two decisively went to Ankalaev.
Oh, round two, yeah. I mean, it ended with Alex getting rocked really bad.
Yeah.
Almost falling over and luckily saved by the bell.
So round two...
He recovered quick by the seams of it.
He did recover quick, but round two was decisive for Ankalaev. Round one was for Poatan, but not decisive. Because not a lot happened, right? So then we move on to round three. And that was the one that was like, that's the big questionable round. Mm-hmm. That's the big questionable round. That's the one where they went back and forth a lot in terms of who could have won that round. I feel like round five was Alex.
Yeah,
round four was
recovered by the end.
Round four was Ankalaev. But that round three is really the round that really truly gave it to Alex, gave it to Ankalaev. And the old saying goes, you got to beat the champ. And I just don't feel like Ankalaev beat the champ.
Yeah,
there wasn't enough done in that fight to beat the champ. And when you are going to take the belt and you're going to be the person to derail that train
legacy
and that legacy, you got to beat him. You got to beat him to the point where the judges go and the audience goes, this is the next generation.
Yeah, I'm honestly surprised that the decision was unanimous. I mean, I guess I'm not too surprised.
I'm surprised it was unanimous too. When you have two fighters that are, of this level and they go toe to toe and they match each other to the point where, it's arguable both ways. You give it to the champ. Now, if the champ has only defended the belt once, or even just won it in the last fight, then yes, you can interchange the belt quickly. You can give the belt to the next guy quickly. But when you've got a fighter like Poatan who has racked up as many wins as he racked up, especially in just 2024 alone, when you have that, I mean, that has to account for something.
Yeah. I mean, unfortunately, the one thing that I obviously think that it ended up being, since the round three was the deciding factor and so close, they almost probably went with the numbers, and total strikes and total significant strikes are both, Ankalaev by a decent.
Yeah, but who counts those?
Fair enough.
You know what I mean? Like who counts that? If we went back and watched the fights and counted all these significant strikes, perhaps it would be accurate. Maybe that is accurate. But I mean, looking back and watching the flow of the fight, watching the energy, I don't feel like Alex Pereira was beaten. Now, to sort of give the viewers potentially a gauge of what I believe is beaten in that sense, I believe Dominic Reyes beat John Jones. Mm-hmm. I believe Dominic Reyes beat John Jones decisively enough to transfer the belt to Dominic Reyes. Now, there are fights like the Gustafsson fight was close enough to where I was like, okay, you give that one to Jones because Gus didn't put it on him the way that like Reyes put it on him, man. Put it on him and beat him for 3 rounds.
Mm-hmm.
So to see Poatan not take that decision, especially with the stakes being so high.
And it was in Vegas. You'd think they would just fix it for the fans.
Man, I mean, even during the fight, I was like, come on, Alex, save the world. Save the UFC, Alex. Perhaps I'll find that shot and edit it in here. But man, to see that shot or that fight, I was so confident. I mean, who knows? Like, you guys heard me. When it went to decision, and it was, I was like, yeah, it's for Alex.
I know when Bruce was like, and I was like, no, and then I was like, no, he's gonna.
It's Alex. Oh, the stakes are too high. Yeah. Dana's gonna fix this for sure. I mean, this goes to show you that maybe Dana ain't fixing shit. Maybe Dana doesn't fix anything, because this was the stakes that was highest for Dana right now.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You know, I'll give that to the UFC. The fact that this fight went to Ankalaev, it's one of two things. Dana has a real good deal with
the Russians,
with Dubai, yeah. and all the Muslims.
Okay, you never
know. Or
closed economy.
He's actually, I mean, I've always wanted to genuinely believe that the UFC has pretty much been legit straight across the board. There are a few questionable fights along the way. I think Conor versus Donald Cerrone was one of those ones where you're like, it looked like Cerrone was paid to take a dive. But for the most part, I've believed the UFC has stayed legit. This makes it seem legit.
Yeah.
It makes it seem legit, because if I'm being completely honest, despite wanting to say this out loud, I believe Ankalaev won the fight.
Mm-hmm. I mean, yeah,
I believe
he did have more control. I think he had more significant strikes. Despite not being able to take him down, he didn't stop hitting him when he was when Pereira was against the cage. Ankalaev kept giving him knees to the body, knees to the leg, occasional hooks.
Yeah, he was very active. He was he became the stalker.
There was no reason to separate him.
It says right in in round 2 it shifted, because he survived round 1. He realized that, okay, he doesn't have the touch of death. Mm-hmm. I can stand with this guy. And then it shifted, and then it just continued to shift. And again, Poatan found his moments. Mm-hmm. But even though on a technical point standpoint, I believe Ankalaev won the fight, I don't believe he beat him. You know what I mean? Because they weren't in a brawl. They weren't in a fight. They were fighting for points. You know what I mean? They were fighting for points, and he had the most points. And if you were gonna win a fight that way, I don't know. I just don't think that's the way to fuck. I don't know. I just don't know what that.
I agree. I agree. When you're dealing with a big legacy, and
exactly,
and boxing used to always have that kind of feel. You have to beat the champ, like you said earlier. And
yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm not completely furious that Ankalaev won the fight.
I am.
I'm not, like, because he's an incredible martial artist. He's only got one loss, I think, on his record, right?
It doesn't show the say there.
I know he's got a draw, and I'm surprised it doesn't show the records there. I'm gonna look it up real quick. Oh, it's fine. It is what it is. Right. But it's just what's next for the heavyweight division, because now Poatan is not the champion. We're not gonna have John Jones. It's unlikely John Jones is gonna seek out the Poatan fight now. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
Yeah.
But it could still happen. But yeah, sad, because I really wanted to see Poatan, and
hopefully just knock the brakes off of Jones.
But hey, you know what? There's also the enthusiastic, positive thought that maybe Jones isn't a piece of shit.
Unlikely.
Maybe John Jones, who blocked me. John Jones, you blocked me on Instagram because I kept telling you to fight Tom Aspinall. Stop being a little baby back biatch. I'm half your size.
Stop doing sit squats as well. It's bad for your spine.
And when you squat, bring that ass to the ground, my friend. Okay? Come on. But fight Tom Aspinall. If he gives us that fight, to me, he's redeemed himself. Honestly. Like, if Jon Jones gives us the fight that we're all hoping and praying for, and he actually gets in the ring, he's the GOAT. You are the GOAT. After everything that you've done, to have the balls to get in the ring with Tom Aspinall, who is young, hungry, and a violent beast. If you can get in the ring with that, that's like being a monster hunter. You know what I mean? That's a monster hunter. You have to have some serious balls to hunt a monster. And Tom Aspinall is a freaking monster. And Jon Jones, to get in the ring with a monster like that, being a light heavyweight, a natural light heavyweight, would make him the GOAT.
Sure.
No question. Yeah. After everything he's done. But the fact that he's avoiding this fight, the fact that he's afraid to lose that O on his legacy, that theoretic O, he's souring and killing his legacy. It kills me. Anderson Silva, who I believe is one of the greatest GOATs of all time. I mean, he's up there the same way in the NBA. You got Kobe, LeBron, and Jordan. You wrestle between those
George
three.
St. Pierre.
It's the MMA community has George St. Pierre, Silva, and Jon Jones, right? So Jones just has to stop being such a fucking, pardon my French, I gotta stop swearing. It's the booze, guys. I mean, I didn't drink.
It's the sweet nectar.
But Jon Jones needs to return to his masculine ways and get back in the ring.
We both know he's gay.
Fight.
It's okay.
Yeah,
it's okay, YouTube.
Gay guys can be masculine. You know, they can do gay shit.
We can cut that out. We're gonna cut that out. I just wanted to make.
But there are gay, you know. Yeah, we'll cut this out.
It's okay, YouTube.
We'll cut this out. But Jon Jones, if he fights Tom Aspinall, there's no question. He can lose to Tom Aspinall. He can get KO'd in the first 30 seconds of the fight. The fact that he got in there with a young, hungry beast like Tom Aspinall, especially being, no offense, Jones, if you ever see this video, which you probably never will, but if you are a soft, old-looking uncle at the barbecue right now, and if you, in your state, get in the ring with a beast like Tom Aspinall, that courage makes you the GOAT. It makes you the GOAT.
Great argument.
I think so. I think so. But yeah, that's UFC 113 or 313. I did want to quickly talk about 314. We've got the main event. Sure. Pull it up. Oh yeah, it's okay. So we got UFC 314 coming up. When is it? April 12th. And then we got Alexander Volkanovski versus Diego Lopez.
I'm kind of actually rooting for Lopez. I know you're rooting for Volk.
I am rooting for Volk all the way.
I'm kind of going with the same thing you were saying earlier, where you want to see new blood, you want to see the new generation, and we've seen Volk do a great run already. I don't think he has it anymore.
I agree. And I'm a big Diego Lopez fan. I think Diego Lopez is an exciting fighter. Yeah. But I don't think he has what it takes to beat Volkanovski. I think Volk's going to come in hungry. I think he's going to come in defensive. He's an intelligent fighter. He's quick. He's still fast. He can get in and out. And I think he's going to be able to utilize his speed advantage, because I think he's going to have the speed advantage. I don't necessarily know if he'll have the power advantage. He's got to be careful of popping in too quick and catching a straight cross from Diego. But
where's Lopez from?
Yeah, he's Brazilian.
He's Brazilian. Oh, never mind. I was gonna talk about the Mexican chin.
So you still have Diego?
Yeah, I still do.
You got Diego.
Yeah, I'm still doing
So I'm hoping Alexander, but let's and then we got Michael Chandler versus Patty. I mean, this is going to be the most controversial fight.
I'm going Pimblett.
I'm going Patty. Yeah, I think Patty. I think Patty's going to I think Patty will weather the storm.
Yeah, I think he'll probably choke him out.
I think he'll choke him out. I think he's going to get the reverse naked choke. Yeah. I think Patty's pretty slick on the ground. I think Chandler is on the massive, way out.
I think he'll stand up with him for a little bit, and then he will end up choking him out.
I think Patty has to be careful to stand up with.
I think that he's going to want to prove something. I want to prove something. And,
I think he'll come out Patty's got to be careful. Patty's got to be careful.
Especially because everybody talks shit about him fighting like this. He fights with his
chin. He does fight.
Poking right up.
Hit me. It's pretty bad. But, I mean, everybody notices it, too. Yeah. Everybody notices it.
But, hey, he hasn't got knocked out. Not yet, at least.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're going to move on to some video game talk now. That was UFC 313 post-discussion. Catch us later for post. We'll be talking more about throughout the week, leading up to different events. But we're slightly disappointed. I know that a lot of people out there are going to be
more than slightly disappointed
than we are. Yeah, catch us again. This is MMA and Video Games. Welcome to the channel. This is MMA and Video Games. My name is Matt. This is Julian. He's going to be running us through a quick little rundown of his experience with Monster Wilds. And then we'll quickly get into a little short talk about the game Days Gone, which I'm still in the middle of playing. Very excited to talk a little bit more about that. Very underrated game. But Monster Wilds came out. How long ago did that come out now?
Like a week and a half ago. Maybe 2
How many hours you got in it?
I got about 35 hours in the game so far.
35 hours. Okay, that happened quick. Because I only have like 10. Not even. 8.5. So the review is going to be primarily Julian. My name's Matt. This is my son, Julian. We are father and son. I know it doesn't look like it, but we are. And he's going to be taking it away. What's your first experience with the Monster Hunter franchise? How long ago was that?
Well, I've been a big fan of Monster Hunter since World came out in 2018, and I'd actually always heard about Monster Hunter because it was always been a really big game in Japan, and my best friend growing up was Japanese, and so I'd always kind of heard a little bit about it from him, and I never got to play it until World came out, and that was their first real mainstream edition to try and break into the Western market. And that was more approachable than even the earlier releases of the game. I really enjoyed World, and after that I ended up playing Rise playing Rise on my Switch. And Rise was a great time too. It had a little more variety.
What year did Rise come out? That's the Switch, yeah. Right? Okay, yeah, because that's the thing I've been hearing more and more about is that Monster Wilds was big on the Nintendo.
Monster Hunter, yeah. It probably was bigger on Nintendo than it was on anything else.
Right.
It was like a handheld game initially, even.
Right.
And like on DS type shit and type stuff. And
well, I'll cut you off there for a second just to kind of explain my experience with Monster Hunter, because this edition is my first experience with Monster Hunter. I bought it to play with him. And unfortunately, I can't seem to stay online. The game has been crashing. Not the game, but the online seems to kick me out constantly. So I don't even get to play online with him, which has soured me, unfortunately, because the whole purpose of me playing and buying the game was to experience it as a multiplayer co-op with my son. And unfortunately, that doesn't seem to be the case. But I will say the game seems great. The game is incredibly responsive in a lot of ways. Sometimes it feels a little frustrating, but I think that's just to add to the level of difficulty, which is necessary to kind of create that sense of accomplishment. Mm-hmm. But I do feel like it needs to be played in multiplayer to really experience the game. The graphics are incredible. You know, I've been hearing a lot of reviews and people saying, "Oh, our next generation graphics measuring up." But we play on PC, and I'll say, you know, there are some people out there who hate on PC players, but PC definitely does take what may seem like a very mediocre game on console to put it on PC, and all of a sudden it feels like you're playing a masterpiece. Yeah, I mean, when you add those frame rates and you take them from 30 to 60 or 30 or 60 to 140, you know, you get a level of fluidity realism in the motion that makes you feel that much more immersed. And having the nice curved monitors really do add to that sort of 3D depth feel to your experience as well. So Monster Hunter, for me, from a graphical standpoint, is incredible. I think it's beautiful. I mean, we were playing online and we were on Steam and we were on the mic and I kept commenting, saying, "Wow, this is beautiful game, beautiful game." But that's really all I know about it. So yeah, you got to tell me more.
Well, while still having numerous tutorials, it's a game that you have to learn a lot on your own. By the seams of it, learning a lot on the fly and taking monsters in at different at more than face value, if you will.
What do you mean, like, taking monsters in more than face value?
When you're, I mean, this was more for the late game than it is for early game. But when you get into the late game, you're gonna have to actually prepare for the monster and actually take in everything you know about this beast and prepare and
like
change,
the big
your
ones.
Weapons. Yeah. Prepare. Change your weapons.
See, because right now I've only fought like a couple of big. I mean, they don't seem big. I've seen the previews in the screenshots and in the footage of like some of the bigger monsters, and I imagine, okay, yeah, see, that's probably going to take a lot more prep.
Well, I mean, for example, there's the Rajang, which is a little monkey, and he's so you'll in the last game you went from fighting this Godzilla-like creature, just giant, basically a T-Rex, and he flips all the previous hardest monster that you just killed. So like you're like, holy shit. And then later in the game you fight this little monkey, way smaller than everything else, but he fights that same Godzilla and just tosses him. And so it might not be the size of the monster necessarily. And yeah, it's just it's a great feeling for the combat in that game. I mean, there's no health bars. It's just sensing your enemy and a battle of attrition, just feeling like you're being put to your limit in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I mean, I started out the first playthrough. I started the game. And it was somewhat exciting, but I was using that charge weapon, and I remember you were like, "Oh, that's a hard weapon. Oh, you might. I don't know." And then so I started it again, and I tried the longsword. And I'll be honest, longsword made the game way more fun.
Yeah.
The charge weapon, it felt like I was swinging this heavy hammer that the moment it hit the ground, it was like, oh, now I got to try and pick this thing up. Yeah. And everything felt slow and sluggish. But that being said, I mean, that's cool to think that there's all these different variables.
Yeah.
And you were saying that, you like to start the game with a different weapon almost every time.
Yeah, each time I play Monster Hunter, so for the 3 previous games, I'll use a different weapon. And the last time, it doesn't matter what weapons I used before, but this time I decided to really change things up, and I decided to use the gun lance, which I never use a shield, and I wouldn't use a lance. So I decided to go completely different than what I'd normally use, and what an experience. I mean, typically I'm used to having to dodge each thing the monster does. I'm a glass cannon holding a mighty sword or whatever. My favorite weapon is actually the hammer. But this time I'm a juggernaut, and I'm just fighting the monster right at the face and blocking everything that it does. And it can feel really, really cool to be the one holding the team together while you're facing this monster. And there's not many games that really give you that experience of feeling like you're taking more than taking on an army, because this thing could kill an army is pretty much the description they give it to you. And mind you, Monster Hunter has never been built on much of a story at all. In fact, the story's never really great, but this game they tried a lot more. But the reason why it's enjoyable is it's just a culmination of your character aura farming, as they say.
See, I feel like the story, only 8.5 hours in, granted I started over, so I'm probably only more like, because that's my total on Steam, hour time is 8.5 hours.
Probably like 5 hours.
So I'm probably like 5 or 6 hours in. I find the story quite intriguing.
That's because you don't. That's probably because you also don't know anything about the world.
Fair enough,
for example,
enough.
I know for half the monsters, I'm like,
I've
done this before.
I think it's quite well written. I think it's kind of cool. I think the whole concept. I'm not going to give anything away, but I think it seems. I'm looking forward to finding out more. But again, I keep getting kicked offline. I really do want to not experience too much more of the game.
The online has always kind of been this way, and in the sense that it's a bit difficult. And that they also set it up that you're meant to play through the story, because typically the old games are just, here's a list of monsters, kill them all. And then once you do that, the town is safe, and now you can go kill all the legendary monsters, or whatever the story may have been. And then you get to play with your friends. But the story has always been kind of the tutorial, and to teach you how to really fight these monsters and how to prepare.
Interesting. So the story is kind of just a big tutorial.
Big, long tutorial.
So that by the time you get to the end of the game,
you can play with vets.
Right.
Yeah, that's the whole idea.
Interesting.
Yeah, and then you'll, by that point you may have made a clan.
And the game is so nuanced that there's such a sharp learning curve.
You have to commit. You have to kind of commit in order to get to it, because like I said, there's about maybe 12, maybe 14 weapons, and each of them are as if picking up a fighting character, just completely different in almost every way. And the lance and the gun lance, despite both being lances, are completely different weapons and have completely different combos.
Right.
And I'm sure there's some similarities, but yeah, you can spend hours on one weapon and barely scratch the surface of what you can actually do.
So you've completed the story.
Yeah. Well, I've completed. So they do the main story, which is called low rank, and then you have high rank, which is end game, and then you have later high rank, which is real end game content. So technically, I'm what's pretty much the second half of the story, right. But I'm at the point where you can play online with vets now. They're basically just telling you go hunt.
Right. I mean, that whole song,
so a story moment might.
That whole side of it sounds fun and exciting. It seems like, I mean, I've been trying to get you into playing. I mean, by no means am I any good at it, but I think the learning curve on Project Zomboid is so sharp and hard that it makes you feel there's a reward.
Those types of games are just a little slow for me, especially when you play Monster Hunter. You feel that.
Yeah, Monster Hunter is definitely like. Yeah, don't get me wrong. Zomboid is slow, but there's a sharp learning curve that makes you feel like a sense of reward and accomplishment when you can actually like compete with the big boys, right? Mm-hmm. So if you were to rate, we have a rating system of 5 stars rated 1.5.
I'd give it a 4.5 for sure.
The story.
Oh, the story alone. The story alone, I give maybe 2.5, in that you'll push through it, or maybe I'll give it a 3. You'll push through it and be happy, but you're not going to be like wowed by this crazy story. I mean, there's moments in the game that you go like, my character is fucking awesome, but you're not like gonna cry or really feel for the characters necessarily. Because at the end of the day, your character is an apex human, only held back by the society he lives in, only allowed to hunt what his handler gives him permission to hunt, and it's basically implied that you can kill anything you approach, and or at least your handler believes in you enough to do so.
So story 3.
Combat 5. Immediate 5. Easy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Easy 5.
So if you were to give it an overall rating,
4.5.
4.5.
Oh yeah.
4.5 out of 10. Monster Wilds was 4.5 out of 10.
Oh, I thought you said out of 5. Sorry.
Out of 5.
You said out of 10.
Sorry, 4.5 out of 5.
Yeah. 4.5 out of 5.
Sorry. So that's like. Yeah, that's almost a masterpiece.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're talking to somebody who's pretty biased in this department, but these are already some of my favorite games.
Fair enough.
So,
Well, I mean, you're not alone. There's a reason why 8 million people bought this game so far.
It is Capcom's Elden Ring. Is what they're calling it.
Which makes me again more intrigued to finish.
It really does
what it is all about.
It really does feel like an art piece. I mean, the armor and the weapons look fantastic in this game as well, providing a lot more diversity and variety in the early game in comparison to old games where it just felt like you were slapping a hunk of scales on a piece of metal.
All right, well, so we have a recommendation from Monster Wilds. I will eventually do maybe a YouTube short on my take on Monster Wilds. But I'm in the process of playing through Days Gone, and I'm going to be doing a more fully fledged review. I'm hoping that I can convince my son to also play through it.
I gotta finish it,
and so that we can do a joint review. But if that doesn't take place, either way, I'm going to be doing a full review soon. But I must say that I'm about 25 hours into the game now, and I have to say, after everything I heard leading up to this game and my first initial experiences with it, I heard so many bad reviews that soured my opinion and made me feel like, I don't want to give this game my time. And then I stumbled across other reviews that said, the contrary, which intrigued me. And I mean, to the point where I told you, I read a few comments where people were suggesting that this game is a masterpiece. And I thought, a masterpiece? And I read through multiple comments, and I thought, a masterpiece? How could I have missed out on a masterpiece? I have this game in my library. So I decided to buckle down and commit to giving this game some real commitment of my time. And man, so far, it might be one of the it's in my top 10. If it continues going this direction and being as good as it has been, it's going to be in my top 10. And it really is quite surprising because the game is very dark and sad, and it just makes you feel, but the world is so real, it makes you feel like this is what it would feel like to be here, to be in this world. And initially, for some reason, the critics made that energy of that experience feel like a negative one. So my initial experience with the game was kind of like, oh, well, if the critics didn't like it and I'm feeling what they're suggesting I should be feeling, perhaps they're right about the outcome of the game. So I didn't bother giving it any of my time. Yeah. And it's starting to feel like perhaps there was like a plan to boycott this game or something.
It's usually the way things go.
I bet
Dying Light or 2 was coming out.
Well, I don't know. I feel like
other zombie games.
I just feel like based on the protagonist in this game, which is a very strong male protagonist, came out in 2018. Following year, you had Neil Druckmann and Last of Us 2, bait and switching the audience. And they didn't want us to have a franchise like Days Gone potentially outshining The Last of Us, because this game is so freaking good. It blows my it blows my mind how good this game has become. I feel like when I turn it on, I'm only, like I say, 25 hours or so hours. But when I turn it on, I feel like I'm turning on an episode of an incredible series like Walking Dead in the early seasons. It's thrilling for the first, so I'm excited to do a full review. I hope other people get out there and even maybe see this and think, wow, I got to give that a try. Because it really is an incredible game, and so far it needs a part 2, and I would be devastated based on what I know so far about the game to think that there won't be a part 2. But who knows? Maybe they finish the story in a way that doesn't permit or allow a part 2. But I'm extremely surprised. So surprised, and I hope that you have the same surprise as I do.
I'll have to restart it probably in order to...
Well, it sounds to me like you were by no means into the thick of the story. Yeah. But yeah, very exciting game, very fun. But yeah, that's it. This is our first video. We've been keeping our poor producer online here for too late, so we're gonna end this. Very exciting 313 UFC.
Very disappointing
at the same time, but hey, it is what it is. My name's Matt. This is Julian. This is MMA and video games, and we'll be back. Stay tuned for shorts and long form content, video game reviews, all sorts of stuff. So thanks for tuning in. Hopefully we'll see you again. All right, guys. Bye.